Hi guys, welcome back. It's Sports with Mono and Mono, and I'm here with my partner Elijah Weintraub. And we're getting close to the holiday season, so Eli has his Christmas tree in the background. I have my poinsettia in my background. So
And we're all
uh,
ready for the holidays.
yeah, everybody get out, and Eli's going to share a picture of little holiday theme. But we're going to start, of course. It's December 7th. First and foremost, which is the 83rd anniversary of the terrible day, Pearl Harbor remembrance, and to all of our service members who lost their lives that day. It certainly changed the course of history. So um, don't forget that. That's what December 7th is all about. So uh, wanted to bring that up, and of course we start our show with the monologue. Sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. And Eli, you have the monologue.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim. And now we're going to start off with a monologue. And I felt I got a lot of requests about this, and I know Diego's a big soccer fan, so we're going to talk about the MLS soccer. The championship game is happening today at 4 o'clock over on Fox. And what better fitting to say is, but the New York Red Bulls are in the championship. They're playing versus the LA Galaxy tonight for it all. So if the New York Red Bulls can win, they could bring a championship not only home to the tri-state, would be the second championship that New York has won this year. And that'd be a great way to end off 2024. And as we all know, New York Liberty won that championship just back in October with a fantastic finish there. And we'll love to see two championships brought home this year to the tri state area. We'll love to
Okay.
see that. For the MLS couple finals tonight, here's some things to what happened in the previous games. Well, not only tonight's at 4 o'clock, it's on Fox. LA enters today at 19, 8-7. That includes 7 ties, 8 losses, 19 wins. New York at 11 wins, 9 losses, and 14 tied matches. The Red Bulls won their previous matchup 1-0 over Orlando, thanks to goal in the 47th minute by Jovic. And LA won their previous matchup over Seattle 1-0 thanks to a goal. Sorry, Jovic was for LA. Graves was for the Red Bulls. Want to clarify that. That was in the 85th minute for LA. And the Red Bulls, they're looking for a championship tonight. We're going to see a good defensive battle. Probably a light scoring game, but both these teams are definitely going to put up a fight. Hopefully, we can get some penalty kick in matches here. So it'll be fun to see.
Okay.
And I hope you watch the game tonight. The Red Bulls at 4 o'clock on Fox.
Yeah. Couple of things with that. Doesn't David Beckham kind of the owner of the LA Galaxy or part owner of it?
I believe so. There's always like everybody has like a tie in something these days, but I
Yeah.
believe so.
No, I think it would have been really even huge if they had somebody like, if Miami and Messi were in
Of
the
course.
MLS.
Well, that would be a different story. They'd be
Yeah.
holding it for a different ball game, as we
Yeah.
all know.
Well,
But yeah,
okay. Good luck to our New Jersey Red Bulls. And I
yeah.
don't know. I got to be honest. I don't know a heck of a lot about MLS, but you
Me neither.
know,
But we'll keep talking about it. And of course, if you have your insight and you guys watch the soccer stuff, send us an email or send us a comment, and we'll be glad to share it or do more research about it.
yeah.
If we get more information about it, we'll get more closer into it.
Okay, let me just apologize in the beginning because I'm dealing with a little bit of a cold, so I
Well,
apologize
we
for
hope
that.
that you have a healthy recovery, and as we all know, everybody's getting it. So,
Yep.
please stay healthy and safe, and take your allergy medication.
All right, Eli. So we got a very, very busy day in sports today. It's
Yes.
college football. It's quote unquote championship Saturday. But first, let's recap some of the events that happened last week. And of course, the biggest game of the year was Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan, a clear favorite, number 2 team in the nation. And however, Michigan steps up and beats them in Ohio State Stadium, right in the horseshoe. That was a big upset, and
Yes, it was.
fourth year in a row that Ryan Day and Ohio State have lost. I saw an interesting thing. There were a bunch of guys like Jack Sawyer and so forth on Ohio State that came back specifically to win this game. So they didn't go 4 years by not beating Michigan. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. So that raises the question, will Ryan Day survive this? And, the alumni are up in arms over it. And I'm not sure he's going to survive it. There's been some rumors they were contemplating or discussing with Urban Meyer of all people to come back. He said he's not interested, but I'm not so sure Ryan Day is going to survive this. The
I don't
down,
think so.
it was a great game, but the downside was the ugly way it ended in the post game on the field. It was just a terrible look for college football, and I mean, it required policemen to administer pepper spray on the field to try to diffuse this volatile situation. And you have to say Michigan was responsible for this by trying to plant the flag on their uh,
Correct.
rivals field. But however, that was a
Over
big
excessive.
game. Yeah. So there were some other big games too. How about this? I know we have loyal listeners that are big Syracuse fans, and they beat Miami
That
last
was a
week.
big one.
Yep. North Carolina State beat North Carolina in what is turns out to be Mac Brown's final game as the head coach, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in random points.
Yep.
And Notre Dame, and it doesn't have the allure that Notre Dame USC once
Yeah.
had, but Notre Dame took it to them and they won. So this is setting up, and we'll move right into what's going on today. Like I said, I mentioned it's kind of championship Saturday. A lot of college football playoff implications on the line, and some of the games today got to keep an eye on is Clemson SMU.
Yep.
And there's a lot of talk, Eli, about Clemson. That even if they win this game, that's an automatic bid to the college football playoffs, and they're not really a team worthy of being in that 12-team field.
Yes, and that is a big question tonight. And also, I want to point out that, as you mentioned, it is a 12-team format now. This is the first year that they're doing this. So when the committee show happens tomorrow, it's at 12 o'clock, I believe, on ESPN. We're really going to be questioning their decisions now, really in depth, because now you have to really focus on 12 specific teams. And we obviously know we're going to get the Alabama in it. We know we're going to get, the usual teams are going to be in it. But now it's just a question of who else is going to be in it. Was it the right choice? Was it the right matchup? Was it the right seeding? It's going to be a lot of questions.
Yeah,
This game is really going to determine a lot tonight, and it's a very good one to watch out for. But I'm very
yeah.
curious to see how the committee decides all this tomorrow, because this is going to be a brand new way that we now have to look at it.
And we have to be fair here that this is a new system, so it went from a 4 to a 12 team. So we kind of
Correct.
expected there to be some kinks and some oddities that kind of make it teams that maybe shouldn't make it, may make it, and so forth. So we're going to keep an eye on that. But there are some other big games today. Um,
Penn State,
Georgia,
Oregon.
Texas, right? Yeah. Well, Penn State, Oregon is one. Penn State, big task going to play Oregon. I think
Really good
Oregon is
team right now.
yeah, they're the number one team in the nation, no doubt. But there's the rematch today. It's a big game, Georgia, Texas,
Yeah,
and it's kind of almost a home game for Georgia because it's playing quote unquote at a neutral field in Atlanta. But
there's technically
they
home.
really handled Texas in Texas during the regular season. So I'm not going to be surprised. I know a lot of people don't think much of Carson Beck. I think he's actually a really good quarterback. He had some bad games, but I'm not going to be surprised if Georgia beats Texas today. And
Really?
yeah, like I said, I mean Kirby Smart knows what he's doing, and if Quinn Ewers is healthy, then Texas should give at least a run at it, and but if he goes down, you have Arch Manning waiting in the wings, who's come off the bench a couple times this year and performed very well. Um, and also one other big game is Iowa State, Arizona State.
Yes, it
So
is.
right. So this is a very, very big day. And a couple of other quick college football notes. Army last night won at West Point. They beat Tulane, who was a really good team this year. They've had a good team for the past couple of years, but Army took it to them, won 35-14 last night. So congratulations to the Black Knights on
Absolutely.
that. They had a great, great season, Army did.
Yeah, and they're taking on Navy next week at 3 o'clock, CBS from Maryland. That's the
Right.
big quote unquote game. And we also have the bowl games happening beginning next week, which is starting earlier than expected.
Yeah,
Because usually Army Navy is just a solo game. Now we got a couple bowl games happening while Army Navy also takes place.
that is next week, right? Army Navy,
Yes,
right? Yep.
Army Navy is next week. And UCLA is
And
firing offensive coordinator Eric Benemi after one season with the team.
yeah, listen, Eric Bieniemy, he was rumored to be, he was this, offensive coordinator for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and he was going to be the next, head coach in the league, and just things seems to have fallen apart for him.
Absolutely.
I, I don't know what's going on. So, um, but one other quick thing. So, as we wind down the college football season, of course, that ramps up the discussion about Heisman Trophy. And I guess Travis Hunter is quote unquote favored to win it. Had a great year, two-way player, rare in college football. Well, you can't deny the season this kid Ashton Jeanty had for Boise
Absolutely.
State. And he had another good game. He had a 200-yard game last night. So he has to be, certainly will be in New York for the presentation as a finalist. But I mean, considering the year that he's had, um, you have to give strong consideration for him to pull the upset and
Right.
steal that Heisman Trophy.
Absolutely.
Um,
But
yeah.
yeah,
So one other interesting thing, I was going to mention it in random points, but we're on this college football roll right now.
absolutely.
Um, Michigan fired their offensive coordinator Kirk Campbell, of all things, after beating Ohio State. So you have to think there's more to it than just coaching, right? There,
Right.
there must be something because, I mean, they just won their biggest game of the year, and I mean, they
Why?
weren't
I mean, they only put up 13 points was the final 13-10. So it
agreed.
made sense because you had two field goals and an extra kick. One touchdown the whole game against Ohio State team. That was a lucky game for them that they won it. But now what happens next year when you play them again? What happens when you play other big schools when the talent level grows even further and more?
Yep.
That's the big question. So to
Mhm.
me, I think it was the right decision. Was it the right timing? Maybe not the right timing, but it had to be done. Now it really all depends on what happens with the playoff run if they are going to be in or not. But probably
Yeah.
won't be. But that
But I
probably
think Michigan kind of suffered. The quarterback play that they had was subpar to say the
right.
least. Um, but they did beat did beat Ohio State. You got to give them credit for that.
You got to give them credit, but again, it was only by 13-10 the final, 3 points. You got to
Yeah.
do more than that. It is, this is just there was a lucky game for them, I guess you could say, because what it's going to
Okay.
happen again next year in the future for this programs.
Yeah. Okay. So let's stick real quick with college, and it's the start of college basketball season, and a lot of hype surrounding Duke and Cooper Flag, who as a freshman is considered the potential number one draft pick for Duke. But Eli, as we can see year after year, already the number one team Kansas gets knocked off to Creighton. Um, UConn, the two-time defending national champs, already have 3 losses, so that's quite a surprise for Dan Hurley. But look for them to rebound, and it's a long season. So the history of college basketball, we see time and time again. It's hard to maintain that number one ranking throughout the season, and it got proven by Kansas losing. So
Absolutely.
yeah, a lot of good teams out there, and as college football winds down, and
Now we get into the hoops talk and gets
yes,
further
we do.
into it. I
Yep.
happened actually to go to the Seton Hall women's game on Monday night uh, to see them take on San Francisco. They were coming off a losing streak following their West Coast visit. And they did get a big victory there. I believe 59-53 was the final, if I'm not mistaken. Something like that. But
Mhm.
Seton Hall did take the victory over San Francisco. So that was good news for them. And it was a great time being there.
Good.
Learned definitely a lot there for
Well, on the
sure.
women's side, who's the number one team? Probably South Carolina, I would think,
Yes, I
right?
believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, there's a lot to talk about. I don't think my Niagara Purple Eagles are going to win the national
No, I don't
championship this
think
year.
so. But maybe next year, Jim.
Maybe next year. That's been saying that for 30 years. And we're going to get more some in college basketball when we get to notable passings later on in the show.
Absolutely.
Okay,
High
so
school sports, real quick, I guess. We'll talk about
yeah,
Bergen Catholic. Yep.
yeah, and they beat Don Bosco for again. I've been telling everybody all year long that they are clearly the number one
Number
team
one
in the
favorite.
state. They went out again and proved it by beating Don Bosco. And Eli, you brought up a good thing. Before the show, we were talking about it. But in New Jersey, I think there is like 26 or 28 sectional quote unquote state champions. So we
Correct.
don't have this consolidated
One
national
champion.
championship thing like Texas does or Florida
Correct.
does, right?
So yes, I mean for it's North versus South basically for the championship. There's 5 sections and the 2 publics, so that's a total of 7 champions. Why don't we have one clear, concise winner? Because
Yeah,
I mean, look at the matchups. If we look at the public matchups real quick, non-public, we have DePaul won and Bergen Catholic won the state championship. If those 2 schools battle it out, that is marquee football that deserves to be on ESPN because those 2 are that type of schools that are really good that could
yep,
really be fighting for all or nothing. And I would
yep,
love to see that battle. Hopefully, in the future, maybe New Jersey decides to do that, where we could get one state championship and not 15 different ones.
yeah,
But hopefully that does happen because that would be pretty cool. And also, the season goes on. We could see maybe more games in MetLife, Rutgers, another stadium, so on
yeah.
and so forth. I would love to see it happen, though.
And the reason that we bring this up is because, like we said time and time again, the quality of football players that these teams have, these are going to be the college football players of tomorrow.
Correct.
And when you see the talent level across, you always think of California, Ohio, Texas, and Florida
Right.
as the predominant powerhouses, and rightfully so. But New Jersey is certainly not lacking in talent on the high school football level.
Absolutely.
Yep. So wanted to bring that up for sure. Um, we're going to get into the NFL in a little bit, but let's touch base real quick on the NHL because there was a lot of
Yes.
happenings yesterday, and the Rangers traded their captain Jacob Trouba to the Anaheim Ducks,
I'm
and
shocked about that move. I'll be quite honest with you. I did not expect them to do that. Um, was it the right decision? I don't know. I mean, we'll find out tonight because this happened yesterday. So
yeah,
we'll see about that. They'll take on the Kraken, I believe, tonight. So it really all depends on what happens. I'm very curious to see how the Rangers do now without them. But on the bright side, though, they get an 8-year contract extension worth $11.5 million for Igor Shesterkin, their goalie, which is a good
yeah,
thing because I thought, I'm one of the best in the league right now. I mean, there's no
yeah,
question about it. And that's coming from a Devils fan. There's no question he's the best goalie out there. Martin Brodeur is obviously the greatest of all time, but right now, active Igor Shesterkin is him right now. Obviously, different story with what's happening right now with the Rangers, but he is definitely one of the best out there, in my opinion.
yeah, no question. I mean, he's now the highest paid goaltender in NHL history, as you said, like 11.5 or 6 per
Yep.
season. So yeah, he's locked up for the long run, and the Rangers are trying to shake things up. They won the President's Cup last year, but got knocked out. So to your point, you always say it's a jinx to win the President's Cup, and
Yep.
I've been watching the Rangers closely. Your Devils really took it to them the other night.
Yes, they did.
So there's a lot of shaking up going on, and Chris Drew, he's not going to sit by. They were already talking some potential trades for Brady Tkachuk from the Ottawa Senators and so forth. So the Rangers
But that
certainly
curse
are
is real, though, Jim.
underachieving. Yeah,
And I say it all the time. I know everybody says, win the cup. You guys, we're going to win first place. We're going to go Stanley Cup. You never want to get first place in the NHL because you will get a curse. You will never make the Stanley Cup final that year, and you will definitely
I
not
know.
have a successful the next season. And we're seeing that right now with the New York Rangers. So
Yeah,
that curse is truly real. So
yeah,
watch out. Whoever's in right now, Washington's in first, Minnesota's in first in the
yeah,
West Side. Don't win it. That's all I ask. Don't win this.
yeah,
Don't win presidents. And Devils, you better not win presidents. Make the
yeah.
playoffs to win presidents.
Your Devils look pretty good right now too.
Yes,
So,
they do. They're
but
gonna play, I
also,
believe, Colorado tomorrow, and then I'll be at the game Tuesday when they take on Toronto, which is gonna be a great game to watch.
yeah, it's a great opportunity to see one of the best players in the league and Shane Matthews. That should be cool.
Yep.
Definitely. And just one other note that the Chicago Blackhawks have fired head coach Luke Richardson.
Yes, they did.
They right now they own the worst record in the league, and that's not sitting well with Chicago fans, considering their prize star Connor Bedard is on this team, and they're going to build around him. But they're off to another terrible start this year. So Richardson, the axe falls on him.
Absolutely.
All right, Eli. So let's go and move right into the NFL. And
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to give you your moment to gloat first because
Okay.
I've been
That
slumping a little bit.
beautiful standings chart. Now, I know I'm not in first place, everyone. I know Jim's ahead 29, 24, and I'm 27, 26. But I'm 2 games behind, one more for third. So I hope for a good week this week. But before we get to the picks and all that, we got to talk football here. But I'm hoping for another good week, Jim. I went 3-1,
All
and
right.
you went
Well,
1-3 this week.
no, you've been certainly on a roll the past few weeks. Picked up a lot of ground, and I got to get back into it. I got to start picking games based on my head and not my heart, because
Absolutely.
because I've been on the Cincinnati Bengals bandwagon and Joe Burrow, and yet they score a ton of points, but they give up even more than that. So anyway, we're gonna do our picks in a little bit, but congratulations on the little roll you're on, and
Yeah, well,
I'm
hopefully
not
it
I'm
continues.
not I'm not ready to relinquish that title just yet. So
Yes. We'll make
we
sure we
got a
get
ways to
the
go.
crowns around soon.
Right. So a couple of notes in the NFL. When you look at it, the big matchup last week was the Eagles and the Ravens, and
And it kind of disappointed.
well, we should be, because the Ravens, when we were talking like 4 weeks ago, looked like a team that was headed to the Super
Unstoppable.
Bowl. Yeah,
Now we don't even see that.
yep. So that's how the tide can turn quickly in the NFL for sure. Um, and Eagle fans, look what they got. They're getting an MVP season from Saquon, and but they're certainly the team to beat in the NFC, except for the Detroit Lions, who were only one loss, and they won a big game again Thursday night, beating the Packers. And Dan Campbell, he is the gambler. He is the gambler. He goes on fourth down more than anybody else. God bless you. More
Thank
than
you. Appreciate
anybody
it.
else in the league. And Jared Goff is playing quality type football. They do have a great team. So those are the two teams to be considered for Super Bowl contention in the NFC for sure.
Absolutely. Now I want to go to the Bills real quick. I made this point on my show, and I know it's gonna be a hot take. We're gonna get a lot of disagreements here. I don't think the Bills are ready for the playoffs. Why do I
Wow.
say that? Here's my reason why. I know everybody's gonna shake their head. Why? They're
Okay.
playing weak teams right now. What's going to happen when they play the Kansas City playoff mode team? What's going to happen when they play the teams that are going to be totally different in the playoffs? Right now, they're doing great, but not great. You look at the wins that they had. San Francisco, 35-10 last week on Sunday night. The Chiefs, yes, it was a close game, but this is a different Chiefs team than the playoffs in the regular season. The Colts was a 30-20 game the previous game. The Dolphins, they cut it close there because, again, it was division. Tua came back. The Seattle game blew them out. This was the time Seattle wasn't doing great.
Mhm.
Titans blew them out. Jets cut it close, but they won both those games. The Ravens, they blew them out over the Bills. The Ravens did beat the Bills, but I just don't see them ready. When you have a team like the Ravens who
Wow.
beat them, the Texans that beat them, I'm a little concerned for this Buffalo Bills team. Despite them winning these games, despite them having, I think they're going to win again next week. To be this week, to be honest with you, but I just don't think. I think when we're going to get to the playoffs, we're going to be very shocked with this Buffalo Bills team. I don't see them going very far. I think we're going to be very shocked when we see them in the playoffs.
Wow, this is kind of shocking to me, because I don't think the Bills have done anything but win. And the year that Josh Allen, he's having an MVP type season too. And I know the Bills always look good during the regular season, and then they run into Kansas City, which they can't overcome that hurdle. But I disagree a little bit, because I think the Bills, and they've had some injuries as well, and they won in spite
Absolutely.
of those. And now they're starting to get some guys back, and I don't know. I think they're really a legitimate team this year. I really
Yeah,
do.
they're a legitimate team, but my point is, what I'm trying to make is they're not going to be ready for the playoffs when it comes time. They're going to cut these games close. They're going to play teams such as Kansas City, who's really good in the playoffs, despite them not having, I guess you could say, the best season despite the wins. Because even though they're getting the wins, Kansas City right now, it's not their best playing of football. We can admit that for sure. It's all coming down to luck and reality for Kansas City right now.
Yeah.
But when it comes down
Okay.
for Kansas City
Fair
playoff
enough.
mode, they're a different team. And I don't think that the Bills are going to make a far run despite them having a good season right now. It's a hot take to say. I know everybody's going to be commenting and disagreeing with me, but
Okay.
that's just what I believe. And feel free to comment. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me. Or how do you think this Buffalo Bills team will be this year during the playoffs?
Absolutely. And of course, voice your opinions. We love you to be heard, and we do listen. So send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com.
As
And all
well.
the Buffalo Bills fans, point directly at Eli if you got a
Again,
contention
we'll
there.
see. Listen, I no hatred to them. I'm just being completely honest. I just don't think that they're going to be ready.
Fair enough. But I
And
do think
also,
there's
hopefully,
one
no
team.
wide right on the
I
field goal.
think yeah, I think there's one team that kind of has surprised everybody, and I think that's the Denver Broncos. I mean, they're
Yes, they
sitting at
have.
8-5, and the year that Bo Nix is, I know there were a lot of guys that questioned whether Bo Nix was a legitimate quarterback. Started out a little bit slow, but Sean Payton, who is I consider one of the premier offensive minds in pro football, has confidence in this kid, and he's starting to show why he had confidence in him.
Yes, it
So,
is
the AFC, Eli, is very
open.
wide open. You have the
Correct.
Bills, you have the Chiefs, you have the Ravens, potentially
Yes.
the Denver Broncos. So,
Yeah.
on the NFC
You got to
side,
look at
like
the
I
hunt
said,
real
there's
quick.
really only two teams.
Right. Right now, in already, Chiefs and Bills. We know that they're in the playoffs. We'll see what happens come playoff time, though. In the hunt right now, who still have a shot at making the playoffs and have a good chance of it, the Steelers, the Texans, the Chargers, the Ravens, the Broncos. Those teams, 100% playoff teams. Out
Yeah.
already for the AFC, the Patriots, Jaguars, Raiders, soon to be the Jets and Titans. And on the bubble right now, Colts, Dolphins, Bengals, Browns, Titans, Jets. But this year, to me, those 7 teams, those 5 teams I mentioned that are in the hunt, the Steelers, Texans, Chargers, Ravens, Broncos, are playoff teams that could make a difference. Now, one note I do want to bring up, though, is it's amazing to see how Russell Wilson has changed completely. How he had such a losing season with Denver, goes to Pittsburgh right now, and they're winning football games. Now, you can question, say it's Mike Tomlin 100%, but it's truly amazing what is happening and what he's been doing. And really, I can't wait to see what he does in the playoffs. I'll be quite honest with you. I know I've been a Russell Wilson hater because he left Seattle, but I'm curious to see what's going to happen next.
Well, that's a very interesting take because I've been thinking a lot about it. That Tomlin's decision to go with Russell Wilson over Justin Fields after just 2 weeks of the season.
Was not the brightest, right?
But maybe it didn't work out in Denver. Russell Wilson, excuse me, is an experienced guy. He's been in the league for many years, and he just didn't click with Sean Payton. So Sean Payton has a game plan, and it just maybe Russell Wilson he didn't get along with him, and he wouldn't implement what Sean Payton was trying to do. And now Sean Payton has a young rookie quarterback who, of course, rookies listen to their head coach, and he's performing. So I don't know why it all blew up in Denver, but he has played well in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh again. It's going to have another winning season. They haven't had a losing season under Mike Tomlin since. So
Yeah.
he started. So yeah, it's real good football to watch. We're getting down to the last. Thank goodness we don't have to talk about Aaron Rodgers
Yes.
anymore. And we don't
Thank
have to
you.
talk
Well,
about
I just want to point this out, though, real quick, though, about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. The Seattle Seahawks made them look like a really good team in that first half last week. If you're
but
watching the
that's the
game,
first half.
I was at the game, and I was watching. I was like, watching the special teams fail so badly for Seattle last week. I was like, wow, we are truly making this Jets team look decently good. It was crazy to think about. And then, of course, the Jets also gave a pick at the end. But what amazing the stat that pulled up, I saw how at this time with Zach Wilson, the Jets were 5-7. And now with Aaron Rodgers, they're only 3-9.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And we do
Well,
have a comment quickly from Eric. He says, "Good morning to all. Happy Saturday." Thank you, Eric, for tuning in and watching.
absolutely. Thank you, Eric. And yeah, as far as the Jets, again, this is it. We're not talking about it anymore the rest of the season. Aaron Rodgers, pack your bags, go whatever you do, whatever you want to do.
Now
But
he's got
you
a new
were here.
documentary on Netflix. Did you see that?
Yeah, I'm not going to watch it. I will not watch
I'm curious to see what this is. Maybe I gotta watch it now.
it. I am not
I think
going
I
to
may
watch it
download
because
Netflix.
I'm fed up with this whole situation. And now guys like Sauce Gardner and somebody else on the Jets aren't going to play in the game tomorrow. So they've packed it in. Season's over. They need a new GM. They need a new coach. They got to start from scratch because
Heck, they
Aaron
need a new
Rodgers won't
quarterback.
be
Let's start
there.
with there before we fire everybody else. Start with the new quarterback. Then we go to the GM and then the head coach. Let's start with that.
Yep. So I don't know who
Other
that
news I want to
quarterback
bring
is
up
going to
before we
be.
get to our picks real quick. ESPN NFL analyst Randy Moss is stepping away from Sunday NFL Countdown due to health concerns. We wish him all the best.
Yeah.
Lions clinched a playoff spot on Thursday after a big win over the Packers. We'll talk about that game in a few minutes. We also have the Simpsons broadcast happening on Monday over on Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. So check it out if you are a fan of the Simpsons and football.
Okay.
And Trevor Lawrence is not placed on injured reserve following a horrific hit last week from Al Shahir from the Texans, who has now been suspended 3 games. And the 49ers have placed Christian McCaffrey on injured reserve, and Saints
Yep.
tight end Tyson Hill is out for the season.
Yeah, there's a lot of happenings going on in the NFL for sure.
And is this
Yeah,
Lions team for real, Jim? That's the question.
yeah, it's unfortunate to see what's going on with Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's such a dynamic player, but yet he can't seem to stay healthy. I mean, he puts it out every game, and unfortunately,
But I think
and yeah, go ahead, Eli.
I think they rushed it this year because he
Maybe.
had an injury, he didn't play, came back, but then got injured again. So I think they really rushed it. I think he needed the season off, considering that they weren't already off to a good start. They should have rested him and have him healthy again for next year. Now you
Yep.
just had him injured, and now you're suffering the last couple of games, which could be worthy now entering the playoffs. I think they really rushed it for San Francisco and Christian McCaffrey.
You might not be wrong about that, actually. You might be right. Yep. But there is one other quick thing I wanted to bring up before we get into our picks. And as Jim makes his
Sort of comeback.
statement that he will not be defeated by his co-host this year. But so there was,
We'll see about that.
and we talk about again the Hall of Fame, right? So now a lot of the talk is based on this veterans committee about guys that have been on the ballot for a long time, right? That's how Joe Klecko, unfortunately, had to get in on the Hall of Fame, but he should have been there before. But there were 3 names that kind of jumped off the page to me on this veterans committee. So I know Jim Walsh, who listens to the show, is very, aware that either we make a statement for yes or no, not maybe, maybe, maybe. But there were 3 names on that list that are still under consideration. One is Mike Holmgren, right? Your former coach of your Seattle Seahawks. And yes, he did win a Super Bowl. He's had a successful career, but Hall of Fame? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Sterling Sharp, right? Shannon's brother, who I remember when I don't do fantasy football anymore, but when I did, Sterling Sharp was one of my wide receivers that helped us win the Lombardi Trophy, if you will, for fantasy football. But he had a very short career. It got derailed by injuries. Only played 6 years in the NFL. So to me, that's a no. But one name that jumped off to me that I'm going to say I don't understand why he's not in the Hall of Fame already, and that's Roger Craig. And Roger Craig, when he was with the San Francisco 49ers, was one of the best players in the game for at least 3-4 years. And, he bounced around at the end, but he's the first player to have 1,000 yards rushing and receiving in the same season. And now Giant fans will always send a bouquet of flowers to Roger Craig because he fumbled in the championship game against the Giants. which made the Giants go on to win the Super Bowl. That was the one Lawrence Taylor, who we talked about last week. That was a big fumble, and that was the black mark on Roger Craig's career. But he was one heck of a football player, and
Yeah.
I believe he deserves Hall of Fame. If Terrell
If
Davis, who had a
possible.
very short career, got into the Hall of Fame, I think Roger Craig deserves to be as well. So
All
I want to
right.
bring that up.
And we'll get to
All
our
right,
pick.
Eli, here you go. We got 4 games, and I'll go through the
Bring it
games.
on, Jim. What do you got?
Okay. All right. So we got your Seattle Seahawks,
Yep.
and they're playing the Arizona Cardinals. Now, a lot of people are starting to jump on the Arizona bandwagon, and I've been very critical of Kyler Murray. I don't think he's a leader of a team that's going to go anywhere. I think he's a troublemaker, but he's had a good run in the past few weeks. But I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks to beat
All
them
right.
in Arizona. Second game, Las Vegas Raiders. One Kenny Bowers' favorite team. I know he's been scratching his head about what's going on there, but they look terrible. But they're going up against Baker Mayfield, who, as I mentioned, I was very critical of. But I've been watching him very closely, and he does have a fire that's burning. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay to beat the Raiders. And, the Raiders don't have a heck of a lot of motivation here because, the more they win, like the Giants or the Patriots, they lose draft capital, if you will. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay. I think one of the bigger games of the week is the LA Chargers at Kansas City. And I know you've been a little critical, or I've been a little critical of Kansas City by not being the team, I think. But I said, as long as number 15 is the quarterback of that team,
Doesn't
they're
matter.
going to win. So I'm a big Patrick Mahomes fan, as you know, but a lot of people are saying, "Hey, what about Justin Herbert and the Chargers?" Well, this is a big game for them, and if they could pull this off in Kansas City, then I'll put them back into some consideration because we were talking about the AFC before, and we didn't mention the Chargers at all, and that should be a little telling. And as I told you during the pregame, this game it's kind of a
So what's your
meaningless
pick?
game.
Chiefs or Chargers?
I'm taking the Chiefs,
You're taking the Chiefs. Okay.
right? And the last game is Cincinnati and Dallas. And now Dallas has completely imploded, right? There's going to be a big shakeup at the end of the season. Zach Martin's now out. So, I mean, they're not officially eliminated from the playoffs. So this is a
They
big
still
game
need
for
to.
them too. But they haven't been playing very well at home. And I've been on the Cincinnati bandwagon week after week. That's why you're making progress on the Picks trophy hunt. But I'm a big believer in Joe Burrow. But I just don't. They give up way too many points, and he's having an MVP type season. But I'm gonna, and if I'm wrong again, and that's it for me. I got what's coming, but I'm taking Cincinnati over Dallas
Ooh.
in Dallas.
Well, we disagree on one game this week, Jim. Only one. So it's going to come down to that game. But the games
Right?
we disagree on, we agree on first. Well, I agree on the Buccaneers. That's 1 o'clock CBS. That's my survivor pick, 27-20. I think Tampa Raiders have been having an off season, so I think Buccaneers have to win that game.
Okay.
Seattle Cardinals. I have to take Seattle. It's 4-5 on CBS in Arizona. We beat them the first time. We're going to beat them again. We're going to make this will determine a lot for the NFC West, considering San Francisco won't have a big impact this year on the playoffs. So we're going to see maybe this will determine which one of these two teams will win the NFC West and go to the playoffs. It's not going to determine this week, but it's going to give a little look ahead on what's to come, as long as if these two teams continue to win. So it's a big game, but I'm going to take Seattle 26-24.
And I'm going to assume you're not taking Seattle because you're a Seattle fan. This is a business, right?
I'm taking Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm taking Seattle, taking Buccaneers. I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs over the Chargers. 8:20 on NBC. I think the Chiefs are going to win it. They're going to do good. They're going to go far. It's Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. They're home. It's got to be Mahomes. Give me the Chiefs.
I was kind of hoping you would take the Chargers on that one so I could separate you again
Nope.
from.
The only game I disagree on, the Dallas Cowboys. I am taking for the victory over Cincinnati, 32-28 on ESPN, ABC, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Monday Night Football, 8:15 p.m. Why am I taking Dallas and not Cincinnati? We gave Cincinnati so much hope, so much opportunity, yet they haven't delivered.
I know.
They haven't. Joe Burrow has delivered point wise on quarterback side of things. Defense, not so much. And that's what's
Mhm.
going to hurt them. And this is a Dallas team that just came off a win against the Giants on Thanksgiving. And I think they're going to do it again. So I'm going to take the Cowboys. So give me the Buccaneers, the Seahawks, the Chiefs, and the Cowboys. We disagree on one this week, Jim.
Okay. Well, listen, that at least we disagree on one game. Because you were 3-1 last week. I was 1-3. So I'm taking my medicine. I always do.
Yep.
All right.
Well,
So
this week won't determine much, but hopefully next week we'll have a better, clear front look at what's ahead.
okay. Now you've been on a roll, and I've been on opposite roll in the wrong
Yeah, but
direction. So
we'll see about that this week.
we shall. All right, Eli. Let's move on to some random points of interest. Of course, sponsored by Lynch Toyota, who is very special to the show. They've been a loyal sponsor of the show since day one, and we send all our best to Mike and his family as well.
Absolutely.
So I got a couple of random points here. This thing just blew up, and I just heard this morning that they're gonna throw this idea into the garbage can where it belongs. And this was the golden at bat proposal by Rob Manfred, which was
Okay.
one of the most ludicrous concepts in Major League Baseball. If listen, when you talk about, I have no problem with the pitch clock. I don't have a so I think that's been a good thing because
The pitch clock has helped so much. There's no
yeah,
question about it. I think that has to be one of the greatest things the MLB has ever done. No
right.
question.
But of course, I completely disagree with the ghost runner concept and extra innings, which to me is just it's hard to believe because all it does is put an opportunity for a team to just, a guy on second base, you can lay down a bunt, sacrifice fly, game over. I'll never agree with that. I wasn't even in agreement with enlarging the bases. I just didn't do that either. But this golden at bat concept where you could, the game on the line, you could pick anybody in your lineup to move is absolutely a joke. I'm so glad that it died on the vine because it would have been ridiculous. Would have been ridiculous.
Absolutely.
And with baseball, no update on the Soto thing. I told you all along. I still think he's going to stay with the Yankees. Although I know the Mets are going to make him a big offer, but we're talking $600 million. It's hard to
Oof.
even conceptualize.
Wow.
But anyway, a couple other quick notes. Interesting thing. I brought up Mac Brown at North Carolina, who was unceremoniously fired. Bill Belichick is reportedly interested in that position. I don't believe it for a second. He's not a college coach,
No,
um,
I
but
don't.
his name has been mentioned, and him and his son, have also.
I'd
Uh,
laugh if that happens.
it's not going to happen.
No.
It's not going to happen. But I just heard it, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about coaching changes, and this I wanted to bring up because we talked about Ohio State and Ryan Day. I mean, you can't lose to a Michigan team 4 years in a row and keep your job. So that's an opening. And then, of all names that have come up, is Urban Meyer as a possible replacement, which he quickly dispelled. But I don't know. I mean, yes, he was a great coach, but as a person, deplorable. And I just don't want him associated with a
Yeah.
storied franchise like Ohio State for a second term. So I'm glad that's not going to happen either. Um, one other quick note. So, we've seen this year in the NBA with James Harden moving in, passing Ray Allen for second place in all time 3-pointers. There was a stat. Nikolai Jokic from Denver is now the third all time in triple doubles, and that's rebounds, right? Points, rebounds, and
Right.
assists a game. And this guy's still got a lot of time left in the NBA, but he passes, of all people, Russell Westbrook. That blew me away. That he's the number one in all time triple doubles.
It's incredible.
Number two was Oscar Robertson, which I completely understood. Or if you asked me, I would have said Oscar Robertson is the all-time leader in triple doubles. One season, Oscar Robertson averaged a triple double for the entire season. But he's got 180. Russell Westbrook's got 200, but Jokic has 139 with many more years to play. So at some point in time, he will beat both of those guys for the all-time leader in triple doubles.
All right.
You have any random points you want to give
I got
us?
a ton of them. We'll go ahead and start off with this. Right-hander Luis Servino and the A's have agreed on a 3-year, $67 million contract extension.
Oh.
Right-handler Frankie Montas and the Mets have agreed to a 2-year, $34 million deal. Which happened.
They also signed Clay Holmes yesterday, I think.
Yes, they did. And if you're interested to become an Arizona Diamondbacks fan, that's a great offer you can take part in. They're offering the Ballpark Pass, which includes 81 home games for only $299. So if you're interested, I honestly recommend you become an Arizona Diamondbacks fan, because only for $299, you could see all 81 home games. If you go to New York City, you're going to be facing $5,500, maybe, if not more. Maybe.
Oh my God! Really? They're offering season tickets for $299?
That's what the run report said. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm becoming an Arizona Diamondbacks fan. I'm going to Arizona, Jim.
Yeah, I'd go to more than one game a year for sure. Yeah.
Man. The WNBA's new expansion team name is the Toronto Tempo. And the New York thoughts on and prayers are currently with NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski, who has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. He was the former ESPN insider for the NBA, and now he's been announced with cancer. We thought our prayers to him. As of this week, Disney Plus subscribers now get most ESPN content and game coverage on Disney Plus without needing ESPN Plus. So a person like me who has Disney Plus, I get now to watch ESPN Plus content. So that's excellent for me.
Well,
yeah, Michael K. Yeah, Michael K's ESPN radio show will come to a close after 22 years on December 13th. They now say that Don and Peter will remain in that time slot on a different show, and Michael is expected to move to an afternoon slot for the ESPN radio show. Other changes will be happening to its programming, happening this upcoming weeks, they said.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm not a big fan of that. I actually like Michael K when he calls the Yankee games. I think,
but not for the radio. No,
I couldn't get it. I couldn't get with the LaGreca and Rosenberg thing. It never sat well with me. Like I said, the only very few, if any, shows that I do listen to, I like Boomer and Gio in the morning.
Yes, in the mornings. That's on WFAN. Yeah.
Yeah. I do like those guys.
Yeah. And New York has announced that New Year's Eve fireworks have been canceled in Central Park and Prospect Park due to drought conditions. They will still happen, however, in Times Square. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade averaged over 31.3 million views on NBC, which is pretty crazy to think about, that the 31 million people watching on NBC.
Well, I think a lot of that had to do with the weather. It was a terrible weather day on Thanksgiving, so a lot of people decided to stay home.
They will watch it. Now, the most viral thing of the week, it was announced on the next post. Palm Springs NBC put up a thing about Disney and stuff, and they said, look at the name. So I'm going to put it up here. Disney World, Disneyland. I drew it out here. The ORL, as you pay attention here, ORL, Orlando, LA, California. It's in the name the entire time, and it just occurred to me when it appeared. I don't know if anybody else noticed. ORL in Disney World for Orlando, in LA. It never occurred to me until the NBC. Everybody's mind blown by it. That it was in the name the entire time, that it was a sign about it. It's incredible.
And you didn't see anything about that? You just noticed that on your own?
Just noticed that on when on the NBC, when it came up on NBC Palm Springs, when they had it went viral all over that it happened.
Wow.
I never noticed that. And I don't know if you have noticed it either, but that was incredible.
I got to think that wasn't, intentional. I mean,
I know,
I
but
don't
it's
know.
incredible. It's like,
It
wow,
is.
like I never knew until now.
Good catch. Good
Yeah.
catch.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, now time for the entertainment and photo segment that is sponsored by Vital Selections. You can scan this QR code to learn more.
Okay. Well, excuse me again. So I'm not doing a. You know what? Next week we'll get back to some of our favorite holiday movies, but I wanted to bring because I watch old television shows, and one of the best shows. It doesn't get credit when people talk about how great some of the past TV shows were, but it's MASH with Alan Alda, and at the first two seasons are absolutely brilliant, and they took a topic, the Korean War, so there's a lot of sadness and kind of the topic of war itself, but they made it funny. And it's so comical and it's so brilliant. And, you know, Trapper John left after Trapper John and Henry Blake left after two seasons. And, the show started to go downhill a little bit. And then ultimately it just wasn't the same show. But the first two seasons, highly recommend it. MASH, first two seasons.
Wow, incredible. And to me, we're gonna go with. I'm gonna show the image first. This is the image first. I went to actually see The Great Gatsby on Broadway. So if you've not seen the movie, I recommend watching the one with Leonardo DiCaprio in The Great Gatsby, and it's a great movie. It's there until I believe January 19th. I recommend if you haven't watched the book, if you haven't read the book and watched the movie with DiCaprio, do that first and take a look at The Great Gatsby, the musical. It was really good. It was pretty much identical, so it was really good. Recommend it.
Oh, good.
And yeah, oh, that's a
Excellent.
tree. And yeah, and the other one recommendation, if I had to
Good.
do
You've
a
been
show, if
you've
we're
been
doing
knocking.
about it, is Three Stooges, as we all know. It's a great Saturday nights. Gotta love it. Yeah.
Love the Stooges.
Of
Love the
course.
Stooges.
It's got to do it. Yeah. All right.
Wow, you're becoming quite the Broadway. You're like the Rex Reed of sports talk shows.
Yeah.
Funny.
Well, I mean, there's school's been doing a lot of trips to Broadway, so I mean, I was like, hey, why not go? And
Hey,
yeah, Great
no
Gatsby.
doubt.
I was actually a really good play. Like I said, if you watched the movie with DiCaprio and you read the book, it all makes sense. I mean, maybe it makes sense to you if you haven't read the book or watched it, but it really you get a better connection, and you'll notice some things differently.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny when you bring up Broadway show, and one of the longest running shows was Wicked, and now
Yeah,
Wicked is now a movie, and it's
movie,
taken
and it's still in Broadway too.
but it's taken the movie
By
back in.
crazy.
Yeah, it's going crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. But they and it does look like in the photo that there is a pool. There is no pool. Unfortunately, in the Great Gatsby Broadway show, although it looks like it, there is no pool. The only pool that was on Broadway was at the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. That was the only one that I've been able to
Okay.
see. So yeah, want to point that out as well. Let's get to some
Yeah,
photos.
and by the way, Gatorade should sponsor our show because I gave him a lot of
Ooh.
free publicity today because of
Yeah,
my
I got
cold.
Poland Spring too with the water, so I guess we'll
Right.
have to sponsor them too.
Hey, they can call us anytime they want to join the Coriano
Absolutely.
family, the Lynch family, and the Vital Selection.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we both went to go see the Christmas tree, different dates, but this is when I took it on Thursday after the Broadway show with the school.
Yeah.
We went to go see the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. I went Thursday. You went Friday, you said, Jim, and you said it was
Yeah, I did.
busier.
Yeah. And it is beautiful tree, but it's such a madhouse. It's kind of crazy, but
And I don't know. It looks better, so much better on the phone, TV. When you go in there in person, it's like, is that really it? Like, it's nothing like I don't know.
well,
Yeah.
I told you I saw it one time and I was kind of underwhelmed. But
Yeah.
when I saw it this time, I said, that is impressive. It to me seems like one of the best trees they've had in many, many years. So anyway,
Yeah. Well, here's some
all.
photos.
Yes, and these are the school pictures of my grandkids. That's Hayden, of course. Look how beautiful she looks. And there's the guy that I advertise. He's the athlete of the family. That's Logan Miller, and there's the little guy Hudson. And those are their school pictures, so I wanted to share those as well. And here's the picture because I had an opportunity to go. One of my favorite shows has always been The Sopranos.
Yes.
I had an opportunity to go see them at the Wellmont Theater in Montclair. That's Big Pussy, that's Christopher, and that's Bobby Bacala, the character names.
Wow.
And it really was very interesting. If you haven't seen The Sopranos, I consider it one of the greatest, if not the best, series ever. And this
Ever
was a kind
created.
of a behind the scenes talking about David Chase and some of the scenes that they did and how they unfolded. It was really these guys do this all the time. They've been doing this worldwide, but it was a great opportunity, and I would like to thank Lucy for the opportunity to go to that show with one of our loyal listeners, Diego Cruz, who's going to be happy already because he got
We're gonna be
mentioned
talking about soccer today. Absolutely.
about soccer. Right.
All right.
Anyway, so
Unfortunately, we got some notable passings, and we will
we
bring them.
do. And the first one that comes to mind is obviously Lou Carnesecca. And
Yep.
he was 99, legendary coach at St. John's. And a little backstory, when I was at Niagara in college, Niagara upset St. John's when they were St. John's was the number one team in the country. And Lou Carnesecca was the head coach, obviously, of that basketball team. So, little personal connection to Lou Carnesecca on that front. And that's when this was the Big East, when it was Syracuse, it was St. John's, it was Providence, and it was unbelievable basketball. Georgetown, all those teams. So Lou Carnesecca was 99 years old.
Wow.
And I have one other one I wanted to bring up, Eli. Robert Dixon was kind of the last 103 of all things. One of the last surviving Buffalo soldiers from the Black Regiment. Back in the, it was formed in 1866, but he was Dixon was part of the remaining regiment that was posted at West Point. And we talked about West Point before, Army, the big win last night. So um, they never got the credit that they deserved. They were formed to kind of keep control, and they had to battle the Indians and right, wrong, or indifferent in politics. Um, but he was, we brought up Pearl Harbor, and we wouldn't be doing justice to that Buffalo Soldiers regiment without paying homage to Robert Dixon, who was 103.
Absolutely. And the other one I had here was America's Got Talent, former America's Got Talent contestant and comedian Kabir Singh has passed away at the age of 39. Cause of death is unknown at this time, but he was a pretty good comedian and great contestant on America's Got Talent.
Okay. Wow. We covered a lot of stuff today,
Yes,
Eli.
we did. What a great show.
And again, the show is only successful because of our loyal listeners, and we thank them.
Absolutely.
And Eric, sends comments, and guys like Diego and the Don Orlowskis and so forth. We thank them profusely. And again, just take a moment to reflect. It is Pearl Harbor anniversary, the 83rd. And it was a pivotal moment in the history of this country. And we would be remiss if we didn't bring that up on today's show. So, but thank you all, Eli. Congratulations on this little role you've been on.
Unfortunately, it won't continue because now we only disagree on one game this week. But we'll see what happens the following week. That's what we got to look forward to.
You got it. But everybody, enjoy the college football today. Enjoy the NFL tomorrow. And Eli, you have a great week, and we'll see you guys all next week on Sports with Mono and Mono. Thanks.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.